This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Eldorado Gaming. Eldorado Gaming is your site for gifts and gaming accessories like dice, playmats, and other items to bling out your games. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Find us on YouTube at Eldorado Gaming TX or our home site at eldoradogaming.com. Here at My Mythical Meta, we talk about gaming with friends and strangers, resolving conflicts, and keeping game nights fun, interesting, and recurring. Our game of choice is Magic the Gathering, but our hope is that what we share is relevant for board gamers, RPG groups, video gamers, and maybe even your poker night. I'm Travis, and with my brother Benjamin and my friends Derek and Randy, we've been playing Magic together since 2014. The secret to a healthy meta is not in the game you play, it's being good friends. Subscribe to My Mythical Meta, presented by Eldorado Gaming, wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to My Mythical Meta. My name is Travis, and I'm joined today by my brother Benjamin.
Hello.
And my good friend Derek.
Hey.
This week, Randy is the one not with us because he's with his girlfriend again.
Of course.
This is a recurring problem for our meta. What are we going to do about it?
If they ever get married, the problem will solve itself.
Okay, that's pretty good. Derek, what do you think we should do to him?
Drive-by beating.
Should we sabotage their relationship? That way he only has us to console him?
Push him closer to us. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Where they come running to us after their relationships fail. No, we would never do that to Randy. We're happy for him. Blah, blah, blah. Okay.
And he is the only one not married, so I guess it's time. We're going to turn into his parents going, when are you going to settle down?
Yeah, you better be home before midnight, young man. He's still in his lovey-dovey phase.
I'm still in my honeymoon phase, too. Been like 9 years.
All right, fellas. This week's episode goes out to the arch enemies among us. This episode goes out to all those people who are just so good at their games that they're always telling us to get good. This week's episode is called I Always Get Targeted. The idea behind this episode is that feeling when you are the top dog, that feeling when you're on top of the hill, and everybody just won't let you be. They just keep coming after you. Everybody's stone's got your name on them. You know, the Taylor Swift complex.
All I see is haters.
Exactly. This episode goes out to all the Kanye Wests out there, and we're going to talk about how you can deal with your haters and how to get them off your back. Seriously, though, there are people out there playing multiplayer free-for-all games. Obviously, our game is Magic, but this happens all the time in other video games like Smash Brothers or Mario Kart. If somebody's just good and winning all the time, then the other players will often target them in order to try to knock them down. Did you want to add something, Benjamin?
No, I know the feeling.
I know the feeling. Derek, do you remember in high school when we would play Smash Brothers and we would be like, everybody get Steven!
Yeah.
Everybody chase him down!
And I think we still lose.
Oh yeah, we'd still lose. We would be playing for, 5 or 6 minutes, and then everybody would look down at the stocks and realize that Steven still had 5 stocks.
We're all like 1 or 2 left.
while we're all down to 1 or 2. So we'd be yelling, recognize the threat! Everybody after Steven! And it wouldn't matter.
By then it was too late.
Yeah, by the time we realized that he's the person who needed targeting, it would be too late. That's the idea for today's episode. Benjamin, tell us what it's like, man. Just get it off your chest. Tell us haters what it's like to be the top dog.
Well, I'm probably not the best person to do this because I don't mind it so much usually, right? I'm targeted because I was good, because I have that reputation of being good, and so now this is the price I pay, right? In fact, we're going to get to this later, but being targeted is usually the right call for the person who's good, right? It's good threat assessment to say that person generally wins. So if I'm not sure where to point my damage at, who to attack this turn, and board states look the same, then go after the one who's got better strategy. That makes sense. Or go after the one who's proven that they come out on top when you don't expect it.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, if there's a person who, all things appearing equal, a person who still almost always comes out on top, then yeah, that person is good at the game, that person should be targeted.
Yeah.
I think we've talked for 2 or 3 episodes about how the most healthy metas have even win percentages, and even skill.
Which really just means everyone's losing.
Which really means everyone's losing all the time, yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. But I will say this too. Once you've developed that reputation and then maybe things start to even out and maybe people aren't doing it anymore, if you've developed a complex of, ooh, I always get targeted, then sometimes it still feels like you're getting targeted when you're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we as a podcast, before we as hosts immediately agree and begin to commiserate with that person who's always getting targeted, that player actually needs to examine whether it's really happening or whether it's something called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when you believe something to be true, every time you see it will confirm that belief, even if it's rare and is not actually happening as much as you think it is.
Yeah, and you'll start to ignore things that don't match up, right? That one game you won, on Commander Night, you got together with your 4 buddies and you won one of those games, you'll just be like, well, that's the exception. That rarely
it was only
happens.
one.
I'm still losing all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a real-life common example. Lots of people go through this. A couple of years ago, I bought a Ford Escape. It was my first new car in about 10 years. And ever since I bought my Ford Escape, I've noticed tons and tons of other Ford Escapes driving on the roads with me. I may think, because now I start noticing all of these other Ford Escapes, wow, Ford must have made some change, some sales push or some promotion. They're selling a lot of Ford Escapes. But the sales of the Ford Escape didn't skyrocket. Okay, what happened was I bought one and now I notice them everywhere. I look for Ford Escapes in the parking lot because I'm looking for my own car. I notice them on the road because they are the same thing I'm driving. There are actually just as many on the roads now as there were before. There wasn't an actual change, it just feels like a change because I did something different. That's what confirmation bias is. We believe that something's true, and so every time we see it, even if it's rare, it confirms that it's true, even if we only see it every once in a while.
Yeah.
Derek, I'm going to turn it over to you. What should somebody who feels like they're being targeted do in order to see if it's confirmation bias or not?
I think they should probably start actually taking physical notes on, well, I mean, not specifically, Ford Escapes or whatever, but about win percentages. And I actually did this, I guess, like 5 years ago now. Mm-hmm. I've always liked and appreciated data.
Yeah.
I like to see how it all breaks down, and after so many wins and what decks were winning and against what, what was going on.
That might have been around the same time that the Command Zone did their big data episode.
I bet it was.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Because they did a big data push over, how often do turn 1 Soul Rings turn out to be winning hands? And what colors have the most win percentages? And they looked at just tons and tons of videos from lots of other YouTube channels who were doing Commander gameplay.
Mm-hmm. And I was just keeping track of it on a piece of paper, and then I turned that into a spreadsheet eventually. And, with EDH, with Magic in a 4-player game, you should be winning 25% of the time. So it was reassuring to see how well that assumption was to what the actual math or what's coming out to be. But when you see variations so the problem why I don't do it anymore is because it was starting to warp our meta.
Yeah.
Where people would see that, so-and-so has 33% rate of winning, and it
gets in your head.
That person would get it's like
it digs
they've
in.
won too much. Yeah.
Yeah, we would start looking at the data and be like, Benjamin won 3 games last week. We got to target him.
Yeah.
Or Derek won twice. It's always with Maelstrom Wanderer.
Yeah,
he's
always
every
winning
time he pulls that deck out, we got to target him as fast as possible.
It won't help.
That's true. It wouldn't help at all.
It might now. We've come a long way.
Yeah, so I really challenge somebody who feels like they're always being targeted, actually take notes of how often it actually happens. Now, does that mean just looking at win and loss percentages? Or do you feel like people are targeting your early game ramp? Do you feel like people are removing unthreatening creatures? Do you feel like it's improper threat assessment? I mean, what do you guys think somebody who feels this way should actually keep track of?
I feel like they should keep track of the number of times they get targeted, and I would define targeted in EDH at least being somebody pointed a piece of removal at my creatures, or someone attacked me when other people were open.
Yeah.
And then make a decision right then. Was that the right play, meaning you were the threat or not? And keep track of how often people target you when you aren't the threat.
Yeah, how often
Yeah.
are you on the receiving end of something that you think is improper threat assessment?
Yeah, you need to have awareness, looking from the outside looking in, pretend like you're not in the game, looking in. It's like, was it right to target me? Or, because not everyone's threat assessment is the same.
That's true.
Because we can't see what everyone else's hands are.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a major factor to consider. How many cards do you have in hand? I will look at somebody with a full grip as a higher threat than somebody who has 1 or 2 cards in hand.
Yeah, and if someone has a board wipe, then pointing their Path to Exile at your indestructible creature makes a lot more sense. You might be thinking, well, that thing over there is a big threat, but it's
Randy has Darien that keeps making him more things. Why are you pathing my thing?
Yeah, it's like, well, my thing will get Darien, but it won't get your thing, so I need to use this separately.
Yeah, I can handle everything but that.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, I would say keep track of all of it, not just when you're targeted, but also how many times other people are targeted when they're not the threat, just to see if the numbers are really skewed. And then you're looking for an outlier. Are you an outlier? Were you the person targeted the most when you weren't the threat? And if you were, was it a significant difference?
Wouldn't that be nice if we all had like a supercomputer of some type where we could keep track of all of this data?
Would be great. I would love to look at it.
Yeah, those things in our pockets, they don't keep track.
Like, so I guess we technically have the technology where we could keep track of it, but I would be really annoyed to play with somebody who says, hold on, I gotta mark this down.
Well, I would do it on a piece
Yeah.
of paper, and then
That doesn't speed it up.
no.
Well, the real way to do it is to record the games, go back through the footage,
That's
and
true.
count stuff. But that sounds so cumbersome without some kind of AI assistance or computer assistance or whatever. It's
no.
It seems like such a huge hurdle to overcome confirmation bias.
It-
But really, data keeping, I mean, you've got to do something.
Yeah, because confirmation bias is a big deal, right? People love to have
sure.
a victim complex. They love to feel like, and especially the winners, right? The winners didn't get to where they are. Okay, there's 2 ways to have a win percentage that is out of whack, and one is to honestly be better, right? And one is if your friends have in the past have had poor threat assessment, and you've been the beneficiary of that, because that happens all the time.
They were targeting the wrong person all along, and you were benefiting from it.
Yeah, so it's always
Yeah.
entirely possible that you feel like the target now because in the past you weren't targeted enough. Like you got to get the data to overcome confirmation bias. And you say, hey, that sounds like it would slow things down. But when Derek was keeping track of our games, I didn't feel a significant slowdown. You bring out I bring a notebook to our games sometimes. I don't use it that much. It's not a big deal, especially if you have a simple turn coming up, to just make a quick note. Thrun was path. Or I guess that would never happen because it's non-green, but you know what I mean.
Derek said, nice try. Think of a new example.
You make me laugh. Beast within, not on my turn. Obviously.
Right. Thrun got Beast Within. Somebody refused to trade with me in Catan. Somebody refused to trade with me in Monopoly.
Yeah.
They built a road where I wanted to build it instead of over there. Whatever
Sure.
you're considering being targeted, you just make a quick note when it's not your turn, and then you can analyze the data after the fact. You don't do it mid-game.
Yeah.
I think once you've got the data to back it up, then you can move forward with that. So
Yeah.
what do we do? If you're being targeted more than other players, then what?
So if a person finds that they actually are targeted the same as everyone else, which means that the confirmation bias was the thing happening and that it's all in your head, well, then that person needs to accept that your friends have gotten good at the game and your win percentage is most likely down to where it should be an evenly matched meta. Honestly, that's your best case scenario. That's what you want to be true. Because if it is confirmation bias, then that means the only person in your way moving forward is yourself. And if that's the only person, you can move forward, you can change your attitude, and you don't have to create any interpersonal problems or any sticky social situations if it's just you. You just say, okay, my friends have gotten good. I want to be happy for them because now they're better players. And my win percentage is actually normal in a meta of our size. With that taken care of, we're back to the other side. If you actually are getting targeted more than the other players, then you need to find out why.
Yeah. So what do? You're targeted more often. They're always pointing the removal at you when there's a huge creature on the other side of the battlefield or whatever it is. How do you find out why?
Listen, here at My Mythical Meta, we are always going to give the same advice. you should ask. You should actually physically ask with no coded language why it's happening. Now, we have also discussed some non-confrontational, friendly ways to address conflicts like this in your meta. We've talked about iMessages and compliments. You can start off your questions to your friends with a compliment. You can say, I like playing games with this group, but when I get focused down first, I feel unwanted. You want your iMessage to focus on the emotion. How do you feel? What is the name of that emotion when you are getting targeted or getting knocked out of the game first? Is it a feeling of being unwanted? Is it anger? What is the feeling that you're going through? Whatever that feeling is, that's what you need to use in your iMessage. And then you just ask, can you tell me the reasons you feel you need to target me first? You just ask, and hopefully a good friend will answer you. I mean, do you guys think there's any other alternatives to just asking?
Not really. The nice thing here is that if you've done what we mentioned before and checked that it wasn't confirmation bias first, you'd be able to say, hey, I have the data to back this up. Because a lot of people might say, oh, we don't target you first. You're just always the threat.
They might say, nah, that's in your head, dude. We don't do that.
And it may be because they don't realize, right? A lot of times threat assessment is subconscious and it's not based on rational thought. And so if you've developed a reputation for being good, even if it was from years ago or whatever, and they're still targeting you, but you're no longer the threat all the time, they might still be doing it just because they have that in the back of their head. So being able to come with the receipts and say, look, you pathed this thing when Avison was on the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
There's no better target.
Wow.
And, why did you go after this?
Guys, let me tell you, side note, I stopped playing my Avison deck, and I took that deck apart because Avison herself is so easy to get rid of.
What?
Yeah.
Well, it just happened a lot. It was like
control
magic,
time for her.
swords.
Yeah, control magic, that's a good one.
Bonds of Mortality,
Path to Exile. Like, every time I would pay 8 mana for Avison, next turn, something that costs 4 or less would remove her.
Yeah.
That happened a lot. Sorry, just a side note. Not that I feel targeted or anything.
She deserves it. This is it's confirmation bias. No, actually, it's just that you deserved it. Yeah.
No, I know that. But I really like what you're saying about coming with the receipts. About saying, listen, in this game, you removed my thing when these other targets were on the board.
Yeah. Don't come with the receipts in a cocky or a confrontational way, or don't even bring it up at all unless they try to deny that it's happening. And then you say, well, in this situation, it didn't feel like my thing was the threat. Can you maybe explain what was going through your mind there when that happened?
Mm-hmm. We have that conversation all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. After every game is over, sometimes we'll briefly talk about the moves we made, or somebody who is salty will be like, why in the world did you destroy this thing? And it's like, well, because I had a different answer for that, You didn't know what was in my hand, or I had just drawn something else that was going to change my game plan, or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, good communication is the key. But after your opponents/friends think about it, they're probably going to give one of 3 general answers, right? They're either going to say, look, you win all the time. If I want to have a hope of winning, I need to take you out first. Which, if that's true, if you do have a high winning percentage, especially if you have a high winning percentage even after being targeted, kind of just got to run with it, right?
If you have a high win percentage after everyone targets you and you rightly feel targeted, then that just means you've been able to overcome everybody else's hate.
Yeah, stuff it, right? Like, either power down yourself so that you win less, which probably isn't going to feel good to you, but I mean, it is probably good for a healthy meta to do that sometimes. Or accept that you're the threat, and that even if there were better threats on the board, you're the meta threat, right? You're the arch enemy. You're going to get targeted unfairly, quote unquote, sometimes, because they recognize that if they want to have a better chance of winning, they have to come after you. I think that's one reason that people get targeted a lot. Derek, I think you have one.
A card's reputation?
Yeah, especially in Magic specifically.
Yeah.
Some cards have reputations that precede them. Like
Avison.
Avison herself. But I was thinking dual lands, fast mana, like Mana Crypts and Mana Vaults.
Yep.
If I ever saw one, I know I'm in trouble and I need to do something about it.
Yeah. The Moxes.
Well, they're banned, I think.
I don't think so. I think 1 or 2 of them are. Not in Commander.
Okay.
But yeah, when you see certain cards, they can evoke a fear in other players.
Yeah, or even cards that aren't necessarily
Yeah.
super expensive and powerful, but like Basalt Monolith, that card's only in decks to cause problems. It's gonna go infinite with something.
Yeah, it's a combo piece,
Yeah.
and you know it's going to go infinite with something else.
Yeah. Personally, I know we've talked about it before, but if I ever see someone play Jaleva or something like Jaleva, I will stop what I'm doing and go after that person instead.
Yeah.
Because nothing else will matter to me except for making that person's life miserable.
Yeah, I totally agree. There are cards in this game that have that effect, and I'm sure the same thing happens in other games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of the Mario Kart meta. If somebody's playing Waluigi on the Wiggler, I think that's a popular kart combo. You're like, oh, he's a meta tryhard player.
Never in my life did I think we'd be sitting here talking about Wario on a Wiggler.
Sorry, not Wario, Waluigi.
Yeah.
Waluigi
No,
on a Wiggler.
Oh, you probably said Waluigi, and I blacked out for a
Yeah,
second.
okay.
Waluigi on a Wiggler. I mean, but
Yeah.
there's lots of board games where we're having certain combinations or having certain positions on the board or things like that make you a target. Someone who's about to get longest road in Catan, or someone who's
Yep.
Yeah, has Australia in risk.
right, who's just camped in Australia. Yeah, exactly. So the reputation for a strategy or position or card that's been played or something like that could make you the target, even if that thing is not the threat currently. It's a forerunner of the threats to come.
Yeah, it's a signpost. It's a neon sign saying, I'm dangerous.
Yeah.
Some other possible reasons for being targeted. This little category is probably the most unfortunate one that's going to need the most delicate touch. But if there are interpersonal reasons or social reasons that might make you a target. Maybe someone at your table has a grudge or sees you as a rival. We discussed grudges and rivalries in episode 2 of our podcast. So if you think that might be the case, go back and check that out. But not knowing that someone has a grudge with you or sees you as a rival, that can really take someone off guard.
Yeah.
Or if you don't know the reason that somebody's coming for you. Maybe the person being targeted is cocky. Maybe that person is proud of their winning, of their skill. And maybe the rest of the table thinks that person needs an attitude adjustment.
Since Randy's not here, he will come after me for being too cocky or too proud or whatever all the time.
Yeah.
And he's a man willing to let the world burn just so you can burn further.
Yeah, he will leave his walls down and swing out against somebody
Has wronged
who
him.
has wronged him or who he thinks needs a reality check.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this last one might be the worst one. Maybe you have an annoying quirk. Maybe you do something that's just personally or socially annoying. Maybe you
Flick your cards.
smack your lips,
yeah.
or eat Cheetos while you're playing Magic, or it could be anything.
Yeah. Maybe you smell bad.
Maybe you chew your gum too loud.
Oh my god!
Or
I
maybe
would
you
knock.
smell bad.
If someone
or-
smelled bad, I'd knock them out as fast as I could.
Yeah, it's again, I think this is the most unfortunate one, but that might be a reason. And if that happens, God, you got to pray that these people are brave enough to tell you.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, it's because you eat Cheetos and I cannot take the risk of you playing a control Magic card.
Yeah, trying to take control, trying to touch my card
Trying to touch my cards with Dorito fingers. I can't do it. Benjamin, hit that last one.
maybe you make some game action or something that makes the game unfun for others. So some really common ones in Magic. There's a strategy called stacks where you basically make everything cost 1,000,000 mana and you keep everything tapped and basically people don't get to play the game. Travis's land destruction. That's what I was about to mention. If
Yep.
you play Avacyn and then wipe the board of land so that no one can play the game.
Stealing control of all their cards.
Right? In Smash Brothers, you might shoot and run, and that's it takes forever.
That's what I used to do as young Link. That was my old
Yeah.
my old strategy. My flaming bows, boomerangs, bombs, and just keep running.
Yeah.
I think that's why I got so good at Mario, is because you got the cape to
I
reflect
think
that
so.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
At the end of this last school year, I played Smash Brothers with some of my debaters. And of course, I'm not any good anymore because I haven't played in years. But
Yeah.
it got to where they did kind of a meme round where like 3 of them all played as Snake, and they on a huge
Oh my
map
God.
on a Hyrule
Bombs,
Castle.
rockets.
And they would just
no.
they would just all camp out on different things. They would shoot each other, and then as soon as they shot a missile, they would hop on that parachute glider thing and move to another location, and then shoot another
Oh
missile.
my God.
It was the most annoying thing
Super
to watch.
annoying.
Because they were
Probably like a 15-minute round.
because they were just all doing it to each other.
Yeah.
And so if I know that that's your strategy, I want to knock you out first while there's distractions on the field and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Another one that's common in Magic and in a lot of board games, honestly, is taking super long turns. If I can knock you out early, then that helps the game move faster, and we can get to the next game. Yeah. So I think that that's a really common one, but there's an infinite number of game actions that make the game generally unfun for people that you might like. You might be doing them often, and that's going to turn people's attention to you, even if your game action isn't necessarily strong, even if there's something they could have done better strategically. It may be for the fun fact that they just want to have fun, and you're the one in their way of having fun. And so it's a win to them to get you off the field, even if they don't end up winning the game.
I will target people who use chaos effects like Possibility Storm.
Oh, yeah.
That old chestnut.
Because it just completely makes any semblance of strategy that I'm attempting useless. It's all random. It's all based on the top card that I get.
It's all random. It's all mid.
Yeah, and one time I was playing with my different group, and it wasn't even like a lock. It wasn't even some type of Possibility Storm lock, or what's the other one called? Knowledge Pool?
Yeah, Knowledge Pool.
Or Eye of the Storm. It wasn't like a lock or anything like that. It was just the existence of Possibility Storm on the field made the game last 3 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Because I could play an instant or sorcery, but the one I play is not the one I get. I have to just get lucky and see which one I get off the top. And there was one time somebody had played an instant, and then they shuffled down and got to their Beast Within. And I was like, perfect, you can get rid of Possibility Storm, we can get this game back on track. And they were like, but what about this other thing? I was like, oh my god, please. We've been here for 2.5 hours. Please destroy Possibility Storm so that the rest of us can get back to playing. So that's another game action or maybe just a card's reputation. I don't know what category that's in, but I've certainly targeted people for doing chaos stuff.
Yeah. And the nice thing is that if you're taking game actions that are unfun, or you're playing cards that put a target on your head, those are easily fixable, right? We kind of already talked about if you have a reputation for winning and it's true, then just you have to decide if you're going to lean into that and just take being targeted, or if you're going to power down and let your group know that you're powering down so that they can, take the target off of you. But if you're playing cards that have a reputation, or you're doing different game actions that make the game unfun, you can fix those. Those are, if you don't want to get targeted, change the target, right? Yep. We mentioned this in another episode where I had an Orvar deck that took control of people's stuff, and people weren't having fun with that. And we mentioned that I changed so that people would have fun, but another reason I changed, a lesser reason but still an important reason, is because if I pulled out Orvar and people knew where that was headed, they're going to lose control of all their stuff, they're going to have an unfun game, they're going to go after me first. And so if I don't have those things in there, they can say, well, I'll go after whoever's the biggest threat at the time, and not necessarily go after Benjamin, because I know that if he gets his board set up, I will still be able to play, right? You can change your strategies and change the specific cards you play, and then the targeting should go away, especially if you talk with your group and say, hey, I understand that y'all didn't like when I was doing this. It made sense that I was targeted. I have powered that down so that you can target other people. Just come out and say it. You don't have to target me this game. I don't include land destruction. And
yeah, absolutely.
Even if you power it down, I think you're still going to have to take your licks for, a few games or maybe a few get-togethers until people are satisfied.
Until people believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're just going to have to lose a little bit before it gets better.
But at least it can get better, yeah.
Once you've diagnosed the issue, once you've done the troubleshooting, now you can work on fixing it. And we've said, if the problem really was a reputation for winning, then there are some moves you can make. You need to work on undoing that reputation. We talked about pulling back the power. I think you should be really transparent. Benjamin already said, just say the sentence out loud. I powered down this deck. But if you need to, pull the deck out. Show them the cards. Or show them the lack of powerful cards that they didn't like in the first place.
Look, Mana Vault's not in it. And you can even hold up the Mana Vault that you pulled out. This is not in the deck.
It's in this deck now.
Yeah. Benjamin, I still really like what you said in our Session 0, Rule 0 episode. At the beginning of each game, you can just kind of say, this is the most powerful thing my deck can do. And you pull out all of what you think are its combo pieces or its key pieces, whatever the most degenerate thing it can do is. And when people see, oh, he's playing an Urza Lord High Artificer deck that's not Cheerios.
Right.
That's not a bunch of zero cost artifacts. Huh, okay. Yeah, maybe we can play this game and just not have a I don't know. I don't know what Urza
Before
does.
the
I've never
narrator
built
comes
it.
in and says they didn't.
But yeah, transparency I think is a really strong way to do this. If it was a reputation for winning or a card's reputation or certain strategies, the game actions that were getting you targeted, you can show your friends that you're not doing those things anymore. Transparency is a way to do it and follow through. If it's any game that's not Magic, just say, listen, I'm going to play Smash Brothers, I'm going to play Young Link, but I'm focusing more on the swordplay this game. And then actually do it. Don't sink back into nothing but bows and arrows and boomerangs.
Yeah.
Is there anything you guys want to add to that one?
Yeah, I see on the notes here, and I kind of agree with it, with the lean into winning and just take on the arch villain persona, and your path to exile cannot stop me.
Yeah, that is your other option. It's experimental. It's gonna get you targeted more, but you can lean into it. You can be the arch enemy, and because that's what Benjamin has said a couple times that he does, and that what's fun for him, because it keeps pushing him to be an even better and better and better player. He's got to play tighter. He's got to play protection. He's gonna be on the back foot, but
I lose more often.
But playing from behind is gonna make him a really, really good player.
If you lean into it and you accept getting targeted and you plan for it and whatnot, you will lose more often, because the arch enemy loses, right? That's every movie, every game, that's kind of how that it's set up. 3-on-1. If they're close, and
so it will fix your win percentage.
Yeah, it'll fix your win percentage and whatnot. But at least you know that it's deserved, and you don't have to complain about being targeted. It's a compliment. Just be like, this just demonstrates my power. The moment they don't target you, you can say, you underestimate me.
You fools. Phenomenal cosmic power. Itty bitty Zerda. Itty bitty Zerda standing behind Zakama.
Yep. And so, that's another way to handle it. And like we said, that's just an attitude adjustment. It's not going to change that you get targeted. It's probably going to make it worse, but at least you can have fun doing it. And if you do keep winning after inviting more hate, inviting more targeting, then this is your chance to be like, hey, here's what I was doing at that moment. Here's where your plan failed or whatever. I remember a time, this is going way back, I was playing a Nath of the Guiltleaf deck.
Ooh, I remember this deck, yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, this is a deck that you get to make elf tokens whenever your opponents discard cards, and among other things, it lets you have an opponent discard a card at the beginning of your upkeep. And I was the arch enemy. Okay, this was a deck that really ran on all gears, and this is early on when the others weren't necessarily that good at playing. But Travis drew an instant speed spell that he was going to use to take out a threat. And the problem was, I think it was a sorcery speed, but he was holding it up to play on his turn. And so when it came to my turn, I made him discard it. And he felt pretty dumb after that, but it was a good opportunity to demonstrate, like, hey, see the things that are on the board, because it wasn't a hidden, like, it was obvious Nath was going to have him discard it, because Nath was sitting on...
It's an onboard trick,
So you can start teaching people where to look for things and how to assess threats and when to play cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can be the benevolent archer,
right,
who is helping your other players to improve. At the end of games, you can show them what you had in hand. You can walk them through your line of play. I mean, this is something you can always do if you feel like you're a good player. You can offer to help other players improve their decks. You can look at their land creature spell ratio. Just things like that. If you know that you're the top dog, there are ways to make that reputation work for you.
Now, I will say, read the room. Some people take that to be really condescending and patronizing, and they don't want to be taught how to play every time they lose a game. So, don't always offer this. These should be people that are your friends, that are maybe showing that they're frustrated and want advice, things like that.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I think that's you gotta be in the right place. You have to kind of be a little bit humble when you do it. And obviously, if you're gonna lean into the archenemy role and act like you're top dog, then maybe that's not also the time to say, now let me help you, because now it starts to seem kind of condescending. But
yeah, I'll always go back to compliment, constructive criticism, compliment. You can always say, man, you almost got me here, here, and here. Too bad I had this or whatever.
Yeah.
So let's look now at the interpersonal reasons. This is going to be the hardest one, the hardest issue to work on fixing.
Yeah.
If somebody has a grudge against you or sees you as a rival, maybe you need to apologize. Whatever the issue is, maybe it's a personal or a behavior grievance that's outside of the game, decide if it needs to be mended in order to continue playing, or if you're better off not playing with that person. Now, obviously, that is our last resort, but if there is some interpersonal thing that is bigger than a game of Magic causing you to get targeted all the time, that needs to be solved before you can come back to playing this game together. If it's a rivalry, our episode 2 is about rivalries, and we see rivalries as a good thing, a way for two people to measure their skills against one another and to always improve. So if somebody has said, no, I see you as a rival, in that case, lean into it and target back. You can make a rivalry a good thing, or you can discuss with the player that you don't like that rivalry and that you do want to be treated more neutrally. Derek, once we've diagnosed an issue, what are some other things we can do?
I think you just have to have awareness about yourself, and hopefully you have friends that can be honest with you and saying, hey, is this annoying when I do this? Or for instance, I was starting to like self-reflect and realize, man, I'm a really salty person sometimes. And like not even like in Magic, but I would be like in matchmaking games, League of Legends, other stuff like that. I don't like feeling this way, and I'm sure people don't like being around me when I'm that way. So I've been trying to be less, I guess, salty, just more of a person that people want to be around instead of the other way around. Mm-hmm. So you just have to have the awareness to self-reflect and be honest with yourself. And being cocky won't get you anywhere unless it's part of the show.
Right.
Yeah, I like that you added if it's part of the show. When we're playing with our good friends, these games sometimes include a little bit of theater. Talked about how Derek and Randy will sometimes target each other for no reasons. We've talked about how sometimes we will target Benjamin even though there might not be a reason. But if we play it up, if Benjamin is playing up his archenemy nature and is saying, bring it on, I've got protection against all of you, then that can be part of the show and it can make it fun. But if it's authentic, then that's something you might need to look at. If you have annoying quirks, other annoying behavioral patterns, like eating Cheetos and Doritos, while you're playing or smacking lips or whatever, decide if you want to try to fix it.
And those people probably don't even realize they do it. It's just like a nervous tick or anxious or something to fidget with or something, and they don't realize it's, anything. Like I whistle all the time because I got a song in my heart. And I'll be in the next room and my wife will be like, can you please stop whistling?
Yeah.
Because I'll be whistling the same thing over and over.
Yeah. Well, Kristen and I have our 2-year-old, and she wants to listen to Wheels on the Bus every single time we're in the car. Uh-huh. Like, literally, we have a playlist of just Wheels on the Bus. Multiple different versions of Wheels on the Bus. Because after each song ends, she'll go, yay! Again? And so sometimes in the middle of the night I'll be going and Kristen's like, oh my god. I wouldn't be surprised if one time we're playing Magic and I'm going beep 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 because it's burrowed into the back of my lizard brain now.
I'll be honest, Travis, I would target you.
I'm certain. And then afterwards,
well, that's not going to make the song start. He'll just sing while he's on his phone.
While
I'm
off on the couch by myself. The wipers on the bus go swish, swish, swish. Okay, if you have an annoying quirk, some type of annoying personality defect, then you need to examine yourself and see if that's something that you need to change. Anything you guys want to add?
I think the only thing I would like to add is the annoying quirks.
I know it's tough to work around.
Yeah, but just on a more general level, a lot of times people need to be introspective and decide what self-improvement looks like to them. And this is not just for annoying self-quirks, but a lot of other things, certain attitudes, saltiness, like Derek mentioned earlier, different things. And I honestly could have saved this for words of wisdom, but every time that you find something out negative about yourself or that others perceive as negative, you have to make that choice between making an effort to change and no longer participating in the thing where that's a problem. And our society has kind of gotten to a place where it's like, if you don't love me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. And that's fine in some situations, right? That's totally true, but you are making a choice in that situation that I'm not going to change, so I'm going to move on with my friend group. And at some point, if you're having trouble with making friends or getting targeted or playing games, you take it upon yourself to improve and work on your people skills, work on your body odor, work on your card flicking, whatever it is.
Ooh, I hate card flickers.
Yeah, well, will you target one?
I would target card
Yeah,
flickers.
there
too.
you go. See?
Yeah.
And the worst thing is there are some people who develop card flicking on purpose because in competitive environments they can't stop you. And it annoys people to where they might make mistakes.
Yeah.
But that's also, I mean, that's not the type of behavior we really condone at My Mythical Meta. Not because it's annoying, but because it's, it's the wrong kind of metagaming. It removes the fun from a situation. So I think in general, you're in a situation where you have to choose to change or continue getting targeted, or worst case scenario, leave the group because now you've annoyed people too much, and you have to make that decision for yourself. But once you've made the decision, you also have to accept the consequences, whichever way. If you choose not to change, you will continue to get targeted. If you choose to change, then be very vocal about that. Say, hey guys, I recognize that I hum wheels on the bus and that this is a problem that I have, and I'm trying really hard. So please be lenient with me. Point it out when I do it so that y'all can help me stop. And I'm trying to do better.
It is truly a personality defect, and I am trying to improve.
Yeah, if you're
My name is Travis, and I hum wheels on the bus.
If you're open about that sort of thing, people will help you, and if they won't, they're not great friends. Let's just be honest, right? People, it's one of those things where if you have annoying traits, you can fix them with work, growth mindset, right? And find friends that will help you grow rather than continuing to make the problem worse once you've demonstrated that you want to be better. That's all I have to say about that one. I know it's a lot, but
no, that's a good word of wisdom.
Yeah, I guess that can be our word of wisdom for today.
Now you got to come up with something.
I gotta come up. Okay, I'll come up with something else.
We can't not have
Benjamin
one.
already did his words. Now, Derek, you have to.
There
do
you go.
words.
That's right.
Yeah, let's get to our news from the Warfront. This week's news from the Warfront is back on our home turf, our EDH. This is a Magic the Gathering subreddit for the multiplayer format Commander. This is a short one. How do you respond to someone in your playgroup that says, I just want to win for a change. I'm tired of losing. So we've got the opposite problem here. Somebody who says, or somebody who thinks that they never get the chance to win and they're always losing. The poster says, I've struggled with the answer for so long because my knee-jerk reaction is, just get better. Get good, practice, or whatever. But the poster acknowledges this can be a non-starter. Nobody likes hearing somebody tell them to just get good. I remember working through a similar situation in my early days, but since everyone has a different learning style, I figured I would ask the masses. And we here at My Mythical Meta, we are the masses.
Yeah, we're smart masses, hopefully.
That's right.
Yep.
Now, we are talking to this poster. The person who's winning. What can the person who's winning say to a person who's always losing? Benjamin, start us off. What's one thing they can say?
I think the best way to communicate here, and remember, we always advocate for good communication.
Good communication, that's
right.
Say it in plain language with no coding, no shifty eye glances or lip twitches. Nobody on this earth is a mind reader.
Yes.
But we have words for that purpose.
That's right.
So use them.
But in this case, I think what you want to communicate is not get good. It's that you identify with their situation, that it is frustrating to lose. And you just tell them that, you know what? It sounds like you feel like you're losing all the time, and I get it. That sounds awful. I would not want to continue to play a game or hang out with friends where I always lost. Always. You understand their frustration. You say, if you honestly feel like you're always losing, right, that your win percentage is lower than it should be, and, you can in a friendly manner remind them that in a 4-player group, their win percentage should only be about 25%. But you say, if you honestly think that it's less than that, let's keep track for a while so we can see what situations are coming up and find where the problem might be. Because that person may have confirmation bias. Don't just come out and say, you're just imagining it and it's confirmation bias, right? That's not a friendly way.
That's called gaslighting, and it's
That's
wrong.
right. That's gaslighting. What you say is, let's explore this. Let's figure out what's happening, because right now you can skip this part if you agree, like, man, that person's a loser. They really do just need to get good. They are losing all the time. If you know that, you can skip this part. But if you're kind of shocked that they're sitting there complaining about losing all the time because maybe you just don't notice, then okay, it's time to go gather data like we talked about earlier. Tell them, hey, let's keep track. Let's just start keeping track of what decks we're playing and generally how often people win. Maybe keep track of who went first that game or whatever. And let's see how bad it is. You can just tell them that. Let's see how bad it is. And then if they actually are losing all the time, so either your data bore it out or you already know that they lose a lot, then there's several things you can do.
My suggestion was to kind of play with handicaps, maybe offer some concessions. If you truly are better than this person, to kind of help even out the skill level. And it depends on what game you're playing. Like in Magic, maybe you start with one less card, or they have Soul Ring in their hand or something like that. There are things you could do. You could also, when you're sitting down, you could, politic with people. And I saw this on the written down, and it looked like pot licking, because I can't read.
No.
Politicking
is a weird word because it has the K in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're, hey, let's you and I team up and get this person. Just talk and politic to get more favorable exchanges in the game.
I've always thought that politicking is a fun aspect of any free-for-all multiplayer game, and not just Magic, but even in games like Smash Brothers. I remember in high school being like, all right, Derek, we got to put our beef aside. We got to go after Steven. Those things are fun. And, with Steven sitting on the couch right there in between us, Derek and I might be like, okay, I'm going to go chase him up to the top level. You come up from the other side. Use your cape and rockets to keep him off or whatever.
Yeah.
But politicking can be a really fun aspect, especially if you're trying to help somebody who is losing all the time. You'd be like, nope, that's my little buddy. I'm going to protect him this game.
Yeah, or even
anybody who comes after him, you're coming after me.
Or even go a step further and tell people, y'all are targeting him right now. That's bad threat assessment. I'm the threat, or that other person's the threat, right? Point people away from them through politicking, right? And this is not. Notice none of what we're saying is throw the game or intentionally lose or anything like that. Once you take the handicap, you play to win, and politicking can at least partially be to play to win, but you give that person a slight advantage so that the playing field is even, right? Not so that they win unfairly or anything like that. You're evening the playing field, and there's lots of ways to do that. So one that I thought, in addition to politicking and stuff like that, was if they truly are losing that often in a game like Magic, then the problem might actually be before the game even starts. It might be in deck building, and it could be because they're a bad deck builder, but most often I bet it's going to be like a money issue or a time issue where they can't tune their decks as well as you can, or maybe other people at the table. You can real simply either offer to trade decks, let them play with your deck sometimes, or let them or you play with their decks sometimes so that the playing field is more even, or the tables that are turned, or offer to have them choose what decks you play. Most people come to a game night with multiple decks. Especially like me and Travis come with 20 decks.
Oh yeah, we each have more than 10 decks with us at any given session. So
you could say, hey, look, you want to play this deck, but you don't want to lose with it. Fine, you tell me which of my decks you want to play against. And then let them, if they want to, pick your deck that maybe their deck has the best chance against. And you're playing from behind. That's a handicap, but then the playing field is such where you get a chance to try to win, and they have a better shot at winning. And hopefully through all these different things that you're trying, their win percentage gets up to where it should be.
Or maybe even just their placement feels better.
Right.
Maybe they get second or third.
True, yeah.
Just whatever it is, they're having a better experience, and they don't just feel like losing. We've mentioned in a previous episode that trading decks and playing other people's decks, that is an eye-opening experience. That will really just bust your perception of your meta wide open. I love when Derek, because Derek's the one I think who does this most often, he'll browse mine and Benjamin's decks in order to say, which one do I want to play today? And I mean, Derek, tell us why you do that. What do you get out of doing that?
So my thing is I like variety. Usually I don't like to play the same deck or the same theme over and over and over. So you guys make commanders, and I don't want to double up on commanders also. And let's say, you have a tokens deck or a counters deck, whatever. I don't own a doubling season, so I wouldn't normally get to play something like that. But one of y'all may have it in one of your decks. And so it lets me try out a lot of different things. It's also nice to kind of see behind the curtain, like you said, realize, I always thought this deck was so indestructible. It was a battle tank, could handle anything, but it's a paper tiger. It's all
it's all for show.
Yeah, it's there is nothing. This thing is super fragile, and it kind of, like walk a mile in someone else's shoe. Once you realize this is how I can counter this deck, or this is how, Travis is building all his decks or whatever. This is a clear flaw, or this is a clear strong point that I need to build to protect against.
Yeah, playing other people's decks, you will, especially people whom you admire, have a chance to play their decks, and you will get a glimpse into their mind about how they play and how they deck build.
I think that's honestly the best way to, not the best way, but one of the best ways to learn is to, like, again, play someone else's deck and see how it works and the interactions you're looking for and all that stuff, and you realize, oh, okay, I get it now. I understand what's happening here, and I know how to play with and against it.
Yeah. Every time Derek asks to play one of our decks, I'm not just going to say, okay, yeah, there you go, have fun, good luck. I'm going to give him a little bit of a primer beforehand. Say, here are some cards you're looking for, here are a few interactions you're looking for, here's the general game plan. He may not know every single individual card, but if he knows the general game plan of the deck, then that's going to help him to pilot it a little better too. I have created QR codes for my decks, and so
I want to start doing that. I think it's such a neat idea.
Yeah, I have tons of my decks on Archidect Online, and so I can show the other player the QR code if they want it. If they do want to go card by card and see what's in it, I have that ready for them too. Not for all my decks, but for a lot of them.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. There is always the option to approach the person who feels like they're losing and offer to teach or explain. We said in our Teaching Your Game episode, maybe that person needs more time in the learning phase. Maybe they need times, where you play one-on-one scrimmage matches, practices. Maybe you play with your hands revealed, or things like that. Benjamin, talk about the league system or the points idea that you had.
I think it would be a good idea if you don't want to do anything else that we've talked about, and the person, is not wanting to build good decks or is unable to build better decks or something, is to create alternate win conditions. Several YouTube game groups have leagues, several LGSs have leagues, and you can create a little league for your own group where you build up points over time, and you don't have to just have points for winning. You can also have points for whoever gets the first attack in, right? First blood, whoever plays the first creature, whoever gets to 10 mana first, whoever destroys the first artifact, right? You can come up with any number of ways that people can earn points over the course of a game, and then this gives the person smaller goals besides winning, and maybe even gives them a way to win without ever actually winning a game. You can still earn the most points across a night, even if you never came in first place. Then you have more ways to win, because you can win by winning a game, you can win by getting the most points in a game, even if you lost. You can win by getting the most points in a night, right? You give more opportunities for victory, and as we said in a previous episode, the one about teaching your game, small victories are really encouraging to people, right? That's why
because they're going to build confidence.
Exactly. It's why gamification works so well for so many things in your life. Things like weight loss and getting rid of procrastination, because those small victories motivate you to achieve bigger goals. And so the same is true here. If your game group wants to create a system where people can get points in ways other than winning, then it's a good opportunity for your friend to stop complaining about never winning.
We've talked for a couple of years about doing a league in our meta, and we've never done it. We always end up just playing to win. But part of the league idea that I really, really like is that you can make up whatever conditions you want to reward in your meta.
Yeah.
You could make an achievement for having 10 creatures on the battlefield, or you could make an achievement for having a creature with power 20 or greater. Like, you can make these little achievement points for whatever your meta wants to reward. If you want to reward fast, aggressive games, death by combat damage, you can make these achievements cater to those specific conditions, and it's going to help your meta craft the type of games you want to see. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah.
You kill two birds with one stone, shape the meta, and offer alternative victories. Yeah.
I do have one little idea, and this is for if this person is really a good friend, somebody that you're hanging out with, once a month or every couple weeks or whatever, and this is a good friend in your long-lasting meta, you might give them birthday gifts or Christmas gifts. Give them cards that might go well in their decks. Instead of buying, sealed packs, if you've ever bought a booster pack for someone for a birthday gift, hey man, the voice of the professor echoes here. Buy singles, do not buy packs, because buying singles means that you're actually thinking about them. You're actually considering what this person needs in their collection. Maybe they have a black deck and you can afford to buy them one Torment of Hailfire or one Necropotence. That's a great gift that can really power up somebody's struggling deck.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And don't buy packs, buy singles, and that's a good way to help them, while also, hey, you don't know what to get them for Christmas? Solved. Problem solved. Right.
Problem solved. A single card.
Right. I mean, but if you do it often enough, they will feel like they built their deck up, because they did, right? But you have slowly planted the seeds of helping their decks reach the same power level as everyone else's, right? And so they will win more often, because every once in a while they'll draw a Necropotence and go, I'll draw 7.
Aha. I can draw 20 cards.
Right.
I too can draw 39 cards. Or, a green deck, Sylvan Library.
Yep.
Say, hey man, wouldn't it be nice to pay 8 life and draw 3?
Yeah.
Hey. Okay. Anything else for tonight's news from the Warfront?
No, I think we did good.
That's all I got.
It was a short post. It already had a lot of comments on it, mostly from people saying get good. But as the poster already said, that's not super helpful. The last person somebody wants to hear who's losing is that they suck and they should get better. So I liked this topic, and I thought that there are lots of friendly and non-confrontational ways to help somebody who's struggling. All right, words of wisdom from Derek this time.
All right, kids, come on in.
Yes,
this is
yes, grandfather.
This is the adults only section.
Oh goodness.
My Mythical meta
right,
after dark.
Yeah, this is after dark. All right, this is what you're actually going to do. This is for the grown-ups. You're going to want to be arch enemy, and you're going to want to lean into it as hard as you can. You're going to want to crush them. You're going to want to see them driven before you. You're want to hear the limitations of the commanders. Show no mercy and expect none in return.
And expect none in return. That is great advice if you're doing the lean into winning. Honestly, I love it.
Next week, I'm taking the words of wisdom back.
Yeah,
next
Benjamin, these past 2 weeks have kind of been the Wild West, so we're going to need you to put the reins back on these dogies, especially Derek.
But Derek,
Hey, I haven't cussed one time yet.
That's
That
true.
is true.
We have a bleepless episode so far.
Well, we ain't gonna make it.
Quick, end the episode. You can contact us at mymythicalmeta at eldoradogaming.com. Remember that you can always contact us directly by leaving comments. Please like, share, subscribe, and have a great night.
If you don't, we'll find you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.